sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. This is a podcast about a comedian, which is me, and a therapist, which is her, and she's also my sister. I'm Virginia Jones. I'm a stand-up comedian.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, but my main credit is sister to pun princess, Virginia Jones.
You know, we've discussed recently that the pun used to be the lowest form of humor, and now it is explaining memes to people.
Which we did in a previous episode.
At work yesterday, the very nice guy who is the head honcho in the office stopped by my desk and said, "Are you going to be funny anywhere this weekend?" And I said, "No, actually, I have no shows till Monday, and I'm kind of glad because it's busy."
And I'm never funny in my personal life.
Right. Oh, I was funny twice on Wednesday. And he's like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "It was stressful." Comics do this all the time. They come in, they're like, "I need to go first because I need to go do another show. And I'm going last on the other show." And I don't know how they do it because it stresses me out so much. It's not worth it.
I remember watching TikTok where a young woman in New York City, she's doing show to show to show. She's getting on the train. She's doing the stuff. And I don't have the spoons for that. I'll just say that.
I think it's rude to not participate in the show, to not see the other people, to not engage with the audience. I think it's rude to just come in, dip your wick and get out.
I'm a comedy rock star.
And then he went on to tell me how his sister is a corporate trainer and does the big money talks. And he was like, and she does comedy once a month because she thinks it keeps her sharp on stage. And I'm like, yeah, it probably does. He's just putting this back to something he understands, which is corporate stuff. Yeah, that's why I do it.
I just do this podcast to keep me sharp.
Laura, do you have anything for Listener Corner this week?
I certainly do. Let me give you our top 10 listener regions: United States, United Kingdom, Turkey. Turkey's still hanging in there at number 3. Brazil, Germany, France, Canada, Spain, Italy, and still Thailand at number 10.
Welcome, everybody. Everybody's welcome. We love everybody.
Speaking of everybody, our top listener age bracket is 45 to 59.
The correct one.
Thank you for perimenopausal to menopausal women. We appreciate you.
Postmenopausal corner. I've heard it happening to other people, and I don't know why I'm surprised it's happening to me. I've started estrogen, and I am crying at TikToks about dogs who made friends with a cat. I'm not crying at commercials. I'm crying at songs that I heard in a commercial once that were sad. I'm crying at everything.
35 to 44 is our second group. Then we have 23 to 27. Welcome. And then actually we've had a little bit of an uptick. 18 to 22 is up, but 0 to 17 is still at 1.3%.
We don't want 0 to 17. If you're 0 to 17,
anyone who's interested, that's what I want.
Yeah, because they want to listen to Mr. Beast and they're not.
You sound old. What I want is young women who are 0 to 17 to be getting motherly advice from you and me.
Big sisterly advice.
I
could be the queen's daughter.
I could be the queen's grandniece. To flesh out our listener corner, I literally just got a text from listener Lane. Welcome, Lane. Current listener, future guest Lane, to let me know that Bitchin' Sauce is on sale again.
Thank you, Lane. These are important updates.
If you're an Austin resident, you want to go to Wheatsville Co-op, Bitchin' Sauce is on sale.
This is a dovetail of two of our dream sponsors. At Costco, they do a Bitchin' Sauce. They do a Chipotle flavor in individual packets that I can take to work. And these packets are saving my life.
I don't like the Chipotle flavor.
Pretend it's the regular flavor then.
I would love that. An individually wrapped regular Bitchin' Sauce would be delightful.
So Laura, on this show, one of us thinks of a topic and researches it and springs it on the unsuspecting other one.
I'm the lump of coal this week.
This week, it's my turn to have a topic. And because it is the holidays and we're thinking about our year, we're thinking about previous holidays, we're thinking about how we can be better people, better family members, etc. My topic is forgiveness.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm not very good at that one.
No, neither of us are.
So basically, your strategy is anything that you need personal development in, you're going to do as our topic.
It is how I operate because it's something I'm thinking about and it's something I'm interested in. And I think maybe other people are interested in it. So I guess that makes me king a-hole. Merriam-Webster says, forgiveness is to cease to feel resentment against someone. I thought it would be you're pardoning them, you are releasing them from responsibility, but it has to do with you. That much more aligns with my topic.
I know that I have done that a couple times, but very infrequently.
The idea of grudge holding and lack of forgiveness, I grew up believing that it was a family trait and almost something to be proud of. There's an old joke about Irish Alzheimer's, which is you forget everything except for your grudges. And my grandmother definitely exemplified that, even though she was just as Italian as she was Irish, Laura, which we found out later.
Yeah. Grandma Jenny was a great example of what not to do in life.
I have spent a lot of time holding grudges, and sometimes it feels good to hold a grudge. It's funny because I think holding a grudge against someone who may not even know that you're doing it, it makes you feel like you have a power over them, that you've made a decision about them, and you can just carry it around.
Oprah had an interesting story about that. She said that she had this long-standing grudge with this other woman, thought about her daily, had horrible thoughts about her daily. And she was out on Rodeo Drive doing her weekly grocery shop probably. And she saw this woman spilling out of a Tiffany's store with armloads of bags, surrounded by friends and laughing.
And Oprah found out how worthwhile it was.
She thought, wow, my vitriol has absolutely no impact. And she brought up the quote, which I like to use: resentment is drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
I looked up that quote because it's been attributed to Oprah. It's been attributed to Nelson Mandela. Do you know who originally said it?
No.
We think it was the Buddha. So the quote is, to hold on to bitterness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Oh, it's deep.
I think sometimes grudge holding feels good because it gives you validation in your feelings. It makes you feel like there's some justice, which is just you being mad at the person, which again doesn't matter.
And it also keeps your anger alive, which I find is really dumb. I was talking to a friend about a recent ex, and I was noticing that I'm still on a daily basis having thoughts about him. What would happen? I would see the Chipotle bitchin' sauce and think, he liked that flavor. F him in the face. So what I've been doing lately is I've been saying, he liked that flavor, and that's okay. He did his best. I did my best, and it's over now. And guess what? The thoughts have dissipated.
It feels good to have a secret. I found it very pleasurable to be angry at people who didn't know I was angry. Like, she doesn't know I freaking hate her. What? Especially talking about it now, it feels ridiculous. This topic came up to me because I was telling another comic about a comic that I had worked with who was a Portland headliner, and his name was Joe F. We were doing a weekend together where I was featuring for him. He was doing the longest set and I was doing the second longest set. And I kind of had something in my craw to begin with because Joe was not funnier than me. He was not more skilled than me. He didn't have better credits. He just had been around forever. And that's the booker's fault. That's not Joe's fault. That's not my fault. The booker booked men because several of their friends had recommended them as headliners. And the booker booked women because he would need to come and see you do an hour in Portland. At the time, I did not live here. It was impossible. Pretty aggravating. We did the first night show and I did very well. And Joe kind of gave me guff about it. And he was like, well, you didn't leave me a lot to work with up there.
Rude.
Rude. And that's not my problem. If you're the headliner, you need to bring the heat. The second night I got up, I did very well. Joe was a little drunk and I could see that something was going to happen. His eyes were kind of glassy and he's like, I just can't wait to get up there and really make him laugh.
Seemed like he was going to cry.
It seemed like something. I had already seen Joe's set. I went to a side room and was talking with the other comic. We were doing the eternal tradition of comedy, which is talking S-hit. A couple minutes go by and an audience member comes and finds us and says, hey, you need to get back in there. Something's happening. What had been happening was that Joe did his opening joke, didn't feel that it went well. He was like, okay, let's start over. And he would start his opening joke again. And he'd done it 3 or 4 times. And he seemed to be in he was crashing out, basically. The manager came and got me and said, hey, you need to go back up there and bring him off stage. And then you need to finish the show. I brought him off and he's like, and you're going to bring me up, right? And I'm like, that's right, buddy. But he was fired by the time I get on stage. I finished the show, did very well. Everybody was really nice about it and really appreciative because these people had paid money to go out. They'd gotten babysitters. They didn't want to have a bad evening. Usually when this happens, the booker will replace the headliner with you. But I had a conversation with the booker and he said, that's not really how it works. It's 100% how it works. He brought in some other dude who was unfunny, had problems with alcohol as well. His closer was he would run around the stage and he would drop his special tools out of his underwear on stage. He had been asked not to do that and not to expose himself to an audience. So he told me, I don't know how to close the show.
I have to flash everybody to close the show.
He didn't bring out the sausage, but he brought out the potatoes.
Oh, God. In English culture, you would call that the ghoulies.
Yeah, he would expose his ghoulies. And the truth is that Joe was a very weird person. It turns out, was a compulsive liar. Most of the things I knew about him were not true. He talked a lot about how his dad had killed himself. He had a tattoo commemorating his dad. He was interviewed in the paper about something, and he talked about his dead parents, and his parents commented on it and said, wow, I didn't know we were dead. He just doesn't talk to us anymore. He told everybody he had cancer, and he raised a lot of money for himself for having cancer. He didn't have cancer. He had alcoholism. And when he died, people went after his mother, who he had not spoken to for many, many years. And she was like, guys, you gave money to an alcoholic and I can't help you. That was a bad decision on your part.
Reference our Pants on Fire episode.
He said he had COVID. And when he died, I thought, that's my first person that I've known personally to die of COVID. And then his mother posted on his Facebook and said, guys, he didn't die of COVID. His liver failed. And he was like 42. A very sad life and a very messed up person. And then the headliner, who I didn't really know, was also an alcoholic and also had problems. What's the point of being mad at these people?
What's the point of being mad at any person?
Right. What is the point of being mad at people who are dead? I'm no longer mad at my dad. What is the point of holding on to that anger now? It's all ephemeral.
Can you explain why you forgive dead people?
I guess I forgive dead people because, one, they cannot hurt me anymore. And two, because it's sad that they're dead. Even though I was mad at them for this or that, they weren't a very good father, or they lied to me constantly, whatever it was.
Specific.
That could be about anybody.
How many fathers do you have?
What's another grudge that you have managed to release?
On some level, I've been able to forgive my parents, both of them. The way that I do it is I remind myself, sort of like what you did with Joe, I remind myself that even though their best wasn't that great, I think truly they both didn't have the intention to harm me. I think that they just had other stuff going on that made it hard for them to be good parents.
Each of them had a really weird package deal for parents. Each of them had trauma in their lives. They were just trying to solve that. And you're right, neither of them went out of their way to harm us.
The people that I have a difficult time forgiving are the people that keep doing hurtful things. I remember talking to a colleague about dad and saying, I've let go of a lot of my resentments because he can't hurt me anymore. And they looked at me like, oh my gosh, you poor thing. Well, them's the facts.
That's a gift. Realizing I don't have to carry this around.
Everything that ever happened with this man has already happened and he can't add to the list.
But to tack on something you were just saying, forgiving someone does not mean you need to continue that relationship. If this person keeps hurting you and you don't want that anymore, you can let them go, but that doesn't mean you need to hold on to that resentment and hold on to that anger.
During the Me Too movement, I started reviewing a lot of my experiences as a young woman and realizing, oh my gosh, I've been essayed a lot.
Whole lot. We just didn't call it that then.
Oh, he was handsy. And I think I've talked about this on the podcast, but my very first essayer wrote me a message on Facebook and was like, hey, how's it going? How's your sister? What's up? I took a very long time to write a thoughtful, very clear message. You are not great. And these are the reasons why I don't think you're great. And I find that being able to do that, just even saying my piece to the person, goes a long way with me moving on from things.
And his feelings were hurt because he was a girl dad and he really didn't think of himself that way.
He said, what am I going to tell my wife? And I thought, well, that's not my problem, bro.
That's someone else's problem, dude.
What forgiveness means to me is I don't forget what you did. I don't excuse what you did. And I don't have to like you anymore, but I'm not thinking about it and having big emotions. That's what forgiveness is.
I'm not putting energy into you. That's the current new agey way to say it.
I'm not wasting time thinking about you.
Living in Los Angeles in comedy, I would develop grudges towards people because they were rude to me, they ditched me for something, or they had essayed a friend of mine. And I got this list. It got to be where every comedy lineup that I thought, oh, I might like to go to that, there was at least one person that I didn't want to be in the same room with. It didn't make their lives worse. It made my life worse. It cut me off from opportunities to network and hang out and socialize. It wasn't hurting them.
And I have found, especially professionally, I try really hard to just keep everything above board and not let anybody know unless it's someone who is meaningful in my life. If that person is consequential, I'm going to sit them down and let them know what happened. Most of the time, I didn't like the rude, passive aggressive comment you made at that cocktail hour 12 years ago. Who cares?
They've forgotten about it. You're remembering. I'm really trying to forgive my ex-husband because I'm going to run into him one of these days and I don't want me to feel bad. On the other side of this, I had an interesting thought. The other day, I saw someone who physically resembled my most recent ex, I had an icky little feeling because the last time we spoke, he let me know he was never going to speak to me again. And he's really kept to that. And I thought, oh, I wonder if he's still mad at me. And then I'm like, it doesn't matter.
I'm just going to go ahead and say, without a doubt, absolutely, yes, he's mad at you. He likes to hold on to angry feelings.
I can turn the mirror around the other way. It doesn't matter to me at all if he's angry at me. That's also a freedom.
I think it's important to realize in both cases, no matter what, I can't do anything about it. I can't make a person like me. I can't make myself like another person, but also I don't have to spend a lot of time and energy and thought in wondering. I had somebody in my office say that this week. Well, when's he going to get it? He just needs to get it. And I was like, no, he's not going to get it because he didn't get it in the last 12 jobs he's had. So why is he going to get it now? And it's not your job to show it to him or let him have his just desserts, because let me just throw this out there. Pro tip, if I'm an abusive or an emotionally unwell person, I'm not probably ever going to learn.
I'm just going to walk around saying everyone I've ever worked with has been a king a-hole. Everyone I've ever been in a relationship with was a real jerk.
I guess I've just had really bad luck.
Let's talk a little bit about what's good about forgiveness. For me, it's going to keep me from having bad feelings in public. I've been to a party and I'm having a good time, and then I see someone across the room that I just don't want to be in the same room with, and ice goes down my spine and I have to leave. I've made myself uncomfortable. I've put myself in that situation by not releasing the aggravation and the anger I have towards that person. Letting go of that resentment is only going to make my life better.
Right. It's spoiling your own life to have those negative feelings. And P.S., even to this day, if I saw my ex-husband somewhere, I wouldn't feel great. I've had a few run-ins with him post-divorce, and none of the times did I feel good. I don't think you're ever going to feel great about someone who's hurt you or betrayed you. But I think it's the difference between, am I screaming in the aisles of Whole Foods at the bitchin' sauce or not?
Am I becoming anxious that they're around? Am I overwhelmed with emotions? Am I becoming dysregulated when they're around? Those are the things you're looking to avoid.
I ran into someone who had essayed me at the HEB a long time ago. Both things happened a long time ago, let's be real. And I did immediately feel that icy feeling because what I was feeling was terror. I had had a really unpleasant experience with him and I didn't want to talk to him. And I realized in that moment, there's nowhere for me to go. He looked at me and he had terror in his eyes. So I just pretended I didn't see him and kept it moving.
And the good news is that despite the crumbling infrastructure and the deterioration of life around us, you know, you're probably not going to get essayed in the HEB.
You never know. I mean, it is open pretty late.
So forgiveness has mental health benefits. It can lower anxiety, depression, anger, and hostility. You can ease your own stress, releasing the chronic stress from holding on to that resentment. In general, releasing grudges and forgiving people is going to improve your own life satisfaction. It can also enhance your coping skills. The quote I have, forgiveness helps reframe harmful past experiences for growth rather than spiraling into distress. And this is what you were talking about, revisiting the same negative thing, piling your anger upon anger upon anger. You're releasing yourself from a burden.
And I also think of it as a way to become more emotionally mature, because I do feel like grudge holding to me feels very infantile, very immature, something a child would do.
Yes. When I was super into grudge holding in my 20s and 30s, and let's face it, 40s, part of me thought, this is a superpower that I have, that I can remember all these things. This is a memory game that I can remember why I'm angry at you. But it's not beneficial to anyone.
No, it's not. So there was a guy that I went to high school with, and he and his girlfriend had been together long-term through college. And then his close friend cheated with the girlfriend on him. And they had been friends since childhood. So it was a pretty big deal. He ended up dating the girl and having a relationship with her for a while, and then it didn't work out. Surprise, surprise. I ran into him in a bar years after all of this. And I said, God, you're such a piece of crap for what you did to that guy. And he said, you know, that guy has actually forgiven me. So why are you still bothering me?
Maybe you need to let go of this, a thing that had nothing to do with you.
You should fall into a hole and die.
You're not living your life how I would. Well, no.
And this guy lives in my neighborhood now. I see him periodically walking his dog with his wife and think, you're a bad person because of that thing you did in college.
Right. That thing you did 30 years ago. Another comedy story. This guy from Seattle was diagnosed with terminal cancer and he went on Ellen talking about it and he went viral. He got a special out of it. And everybody I knew were so angry about it. I wasn't that angry because I didn't care. There was so much resentment for this guy. Is he lying? Is this a bit?
It's also really mean. Why are you going to be mad at some guy who got cancer?
Who got this one thing because he had cancer that was not accessible to us. Another good lesson about comedy and Hollywood in general, when you're mad at someone for getting something that you wanted, that thing wasn't for you. I was never going to get a comedy special because I have cancer, because I don't have cancer. He didn't take anything away from me that I was maybe going to get.
Do you think that those people started hanging around radioactive materials with the hopes that they might get a comedy special?
My hair's falling out. Do you think they're going to put me on HBO? And in the end, he did survive cancer in the way he was not supposed to. That special was on air for about a year and then it was shelved and it's never come up again. It didn't change his career in any meaningful way. He's not famous. He got this one thing that everybody wants, but it doesn't matter. And I think a lot of grudges and resentments are kind of like that. We're telling all these stories to ourselves about bad behavior and what's not fair and what's moral, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to that person. It doesn't matter really to us. I was dating someone who later broke up a marriage and then married that lady. I stopped talking to them because I'm like, well, that's not a person that I want to hang out with and be friends with. And it doesn't matter. And it wasn't my business to begin with. I made it my business because, like you, I am a crummy, lace curtains Irish, looking around what everybody's doing in the neighborhood, having opinions about it.
Judgmental, I think, is the word you're searching for.
That's a lot shorter way to say it.
I also feel the idea of those in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. I remember being obviously very judgmental about people who had affairs. And then I was in a terrible marriage and I thought about having an affair all the time. So I realized, oh, maybe everybody feels this way and that's okay. I think we're both really good at sitting at our thrones of being the better person.
You thought to yourself, oh, they're cheating on their partner. I would never do that. But then when you were in an unhappy marriage, you're like, oh, I totally would do that.
Right.
I understand where it comes from.
I remember thinking, oh, I would never cheat with my friend's partner, but I don't know that for sure. What if one of my friends is married to the perfect man for me? What am I supposed to do about that? What if we would be a better couple than they would?
You perceive. What if someone you knew was married to Rick Mayall, rest in power, who did cheat on his wife and was also a crummy person?
Well, then maybe I would have gotten to cheat with him. What if my friend was married to a straight Morrissey who also wasn't racist?
Wasn't a total dillweed.
He was on time. He wasn't xenophobic and he wasn't gay. And he also found me attractive. What am I supposed to do about that?
You're right. You would be totally justified in hurting your friend. I found a list on the internet, key steps to forgiving others. If you, our listener, are thinking about a person you used to be friends with, a family member, an ex-partner that you still carry a lot of resentment towards, think about this list. Step 1 is acknowledging your hurt. Your hurt is real. Your emotions are real. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. And then realize it's about releasing your pain. It's not a favor you're doing to them. It's a favor you're doing to yourself. You mentioned this earlier, practicing empathy, trying to see the situation from their perspective and their understanding and motivations. Try to understand that they were not perfect and you're not perfect either.
That's the toughest one to swallow.
I think the toughest one is the next step. Choose to let go. Make a conscious decision to release control and resentment and say, I'm not going to hold on to this anymore. It doesn't serve me and it doesn't hurt them. It performs no function except for increasing my stress and anxiety.
And recently I was officing with a woman who, for reasons are still, I have no idea why, but she suddenly decided that she really disliked me and did a lot of weird stuff. I even called this woman. I said, hey, can we talk? Because your behavior is getting really weird. She didn't respond to that message. And I thought, okay, I'm going to move on from this. And my friend was like, well, how can you do that? Because you know that she's upset and you need to find out why. The answer, I think, in most cases that we need to be comfortable with is it doesn't matter why. It's just what it is. And there's nothing I can do to change it.
I'm still extremely curious about what that person is upset about. I'm going to have to release my curiosity and just say, well, whatever it is what it is. The end.
Whatever it is something that has already happened. And I can't do anything to make whatever it was that upset her not happen.
And if she's not interested in having the conversation with you, then that's the only information you need.
Exactly. I wanted to salvage our relationship. I wanted to be in a business environment that was comfortable. I wanted everything to be okay, but she didn't want that. I have to move on from that.
So the next step that we have done and not done, depending on the situation, is communicate. And this is optional. If this is a person who you want to keep in your life, you might do this. If it's the person you never need to see again, you don't have to. Calmly explain your feelings and needs, but understand you can forgive without reconciling that relationship. This doesn't have anything to do with them, really. Set boundaries and say, well, I've learned something. I'm going to set this boundary with this person and maybe with all people. I'm going to protect myself from future harm by establishing a healthy boundary. The last step is focus on the present. After reflecting, processing your feelings, shift your energy to your own peace and well-being. Holding on to grudges increases risks for severe depression, anxiety, and health issues. Forgiveness improves your overall well-being, reduces chronic stress, promotes inner peace and harmony. And isn't that what Christmas is all about?
Is it? I thought Christmas is about spending all the money you have.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's the professional mental health-ish therapeutic view of forgiveness. Here is Buddhist forgiveness. Buddhism views forgiveness as a path to inner peace, involving letting go of resentment and anger for your own freedom. It means releasing obsession with past wrongs, differentiating the person from the act, which I think is something we have a problem with, cultivating compassion, and setting healthy boundaries while committing to right action. Key aspects: inner liberation. Forgiveness frees you from the poison of anger and the desire for revenge. I think that that's another part of grudge holding for me, is I feel like it's revenge.
Well, that's what the client was saying. Well, this coworker, colleague has done terrible, terrible things and gotten away with it. There should be some sort of just recompense. There should be a hellfire coming down on them. But what's the point of that? Who cares? And also, P.S., what I've determined in my life is when the person gets their just desserts, because they always will eventually, it doesn't make any impact at all on my feelings. It doesn't help me one iota.
And they're never going to turn to you and go, wow, look at all these things that have happened to me because of this terrible thing I did. You were right.
If I'd only listened to Laura.
And that's what we all want, right? We all want to be like, you know what? You were right. And that happens very rarely in life.
It only happens to me in Facebook messaging. I remember I had a friend in high school who I'm not speaking to because he was really crummy in high school. And I understand why, but he would do things like sit on me and fart. It was just gross. And I remember him writing me when Facebook first came around. He was like, hey, I noticed we don't talk anymore. He did this blanket.
If there was anything I ever did, right.
And I did the same thing that I did to the essayer. I said, here are all the things you did, and they were really crummy. And I just want you to know that that's why we're not talking.
And did you feel like letting that out enabled you to let go of your own anger?
I'm just big on communication. Hey, here's what happened for me. Here's what my experience was like. And do with that what you may, but that's what happened to me.
The next step is not condoning. You do not have to excuse harmful behavior to forgive. You do not have to pretend it didn't happen, but you have to release your own attachment to that pain. Compassion and wisdom stems from recognizing universal suffering and cultivating love and kindness for all beings, including oneself. This is the concept of metta with 2 T's.
I have a hard time with that one.
In meditation, the first step is you forgive yourself and you say, I'm going to forgive myself and I'm going to heal myself. And the next step, you forgive and send out love and peace to everyone you love, all your friends and family. And the next one is you send out love and peace to everyone you don't like. And that's hard, but it's better for you.
Yeah, there's a Hawaiian saying that I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, but it's like, I forgive you, I love you, and I'm sorry. There was a study done at some point in Hawaii in a prison where the prison therapist was new and hadn't met any of the prisoners yet. And they just went through each file and held the file up and said, I love you, I'm sorry, I forgive you, and put it away. And they found that just by doing that, all of the prisoners, apparently, their behavior improved. Because I do feel like it is an energetic thing. I think when I'm carrying that negative energy, it's spreading.
But it also is going to affect that therapist's attitude towards the people he doesn't know. If he's already forgiven them and already put out love and understanding, that's going to show in his or her or their interactions.
I was going to correct you, but you corrected yourself. Good job.
So the last parts of this are you have to do a little introspection. You can forgive yourself and others. If you did anything wrong in the situation, you can resolve to act better and to learn something. Focus on restoring relationships through positive deeds. Buddhist forgiveness is very similar to mental health forgiveness, but it's seen as an act of courage, of letting go of suffering emotions to align with compassion and wisdom, benefiting both the forgiver and the world. That's Christmas to me.
You know, Buddhism is a big tenet of the Christian philosophy and the celebration of Christmas.
I have a Christmas tree, and on top, I have a gold Buddha who is dressed as Santa, and I think it's great.
I think that's great also.
Laura, what are your final thoughts about forgiveness?
I think it's a good thing to do. I remember, I think actually my mother bought me a book about forgiveness. She said, I'm working on this too. But I remember it was very Christian coded and I didn't like it. In a lot of the Christian text, the idea is that I'm going to forgive you and I'm going to bestow blessings on you. And it's just very self-righteous. And I don't like that. My perception of forgiveness is that it's about helping myself, but also helping humanity, not being another blight on the bottom of the United States. I struggle with it too. I was talking with a friend recently. She said something about how Donald Trump has these white circles around his eyes and the rest of his skin is this kind of gross orange color. And I said, well, you know, that's his makeup. He has this specialty Swiss makeup that he imports and he only puts it on himself. And then he has that weird hair routine. And she said, wow, you know a whole lot about Donald Trump.
Right.
And it's because I hate him. I want to know every incriminating thing about him. And I do spend a lot of time thinking about what a terrible, bad person he is and how I wish he wouldn't be alive anymore. I remember reading in the book Freakonomics, they were talking about this experience with a meditation group, a pretty large meditation group who were in some city that was kind of crime infested. And they did a group meditation that lasted, I think, a solid week where people were meditating and chanting outdoors all day long and all night long. There was a drop in crime. The behavior of humans changed. I want to just keep pushing that. We are all energetic beings. And if we're putting energy into ourselves and into the world that is toxic and terrible, it's going to make the world we live in toxic and terrible. If you can, in any way, shape, or form, let go of a grudge or a bitterness, it's in your best interest and also in the best interest of everyone around you.
I think that's true.
Virginia, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
Your comments about Donald Trump's hairstyle remind me of a terrible thing that I learned this week that I've kind of known. In contrast to the worst person in the world, Donald Trump, Robert Smith is, I believe, the best person in the world. And I went to go see.
He got hair extensions.
He has no hair extensions. He has nothing. But he and Donald Trump both have hairdos that attempt to hide something. And it's very clear that it's just a big charade and it looks terrible. And I thought to myself, you have the money. There's 1,000 things you could do.
You could get extensions. Extensions would be better. I remember going to see Robert Smith in concert at an indoor venue where the air conditioning was broken. And number one, it was a miserable experience for us, but he basically melted like a candle. All of his hair fell down. His makeup was around his knees and it was horrific.
I love you, Robert. I'm sorry.
I remember I had a friend who lived and worked in New York and she was a hairstylist. And she said that Donald Trump and people like him had specific stylists. And she said that they would basically have hair down to their waist.
And they would swoop it.
It was like this circular thing that you had to sort of collect like cotton candy and get it all and then just spray it to heaven so that it wouldn't move.
My final thoughts on forgiveness is I think you're right. I think trying to bring more positivity in the world is only going to improve not just your experience, but other people's experience. The comedian Jen Kirkman is absolutely so funny, a holy terror, but she would do a visualization before she went on stage, especially if it was a gig she was worried about, where she would imagine all the audience members bathed in light and glowing. She said when she did that, she always had a better show because she didn't think of them as the enemy anymore. I think forgiveness is still something I could work on and will try to work on, and it's indefensible. There's no reason to hold a grudge. I'm an adult.
Well, there are reasons to do it, but they're immature and unhelpful reasons.
I think you're right. Laura, where can people find you on the internet should they wish to do so?
They can find me at my professional website if they live in the state of Texas and would like to do therapy with me, lauraryan.org. They can also find me on my TikTok account, which is very unprofessional. I am Laura Ryan. If they're interested in our podcast, they can go to mysistersatherapist.com for all the episodes of our podcast in one place, or they can find us on our Instagram page, My Sister's a Therapist Instagram. Virginia, if anyone's interested in being bathed in the light of your love in a comedic experience, how would they go about doing that?
They can find my calendar at my website, which is www.badinia.com. I do put up TikToks on the same word, Badinia, and my Instagram, where I promote shows, is also Badinia.
And that's Badinia. If anyone's looking for a stocking stuffer for a friend or relative, where would they find your stuff?
You can still buy some copies of my physical album. The downside is I would have to find where they are in my house. But you can find my record on Amazon, Pandora, and on Apple. And it's called Gothic American, and I stand by it. If you would like to hire us to entertain at a holiday party, at a bris, to bless the opening of an indoor shopping mall,
I'm going to take a hard pass on the bris.
You can write us at hireus@mysistersatherapist.com. If you have something nice to say or a show idea or a comment, you can write us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. We love comments. We love reviews. Spotify has singled us out as being in the top 89% of reviewed podcasts. If you want to get on this train, please write us a review at Apple Music, Audible, or Spotify. Laura, this is the part of the show where sometimes you read something nice someone has said about us. What do you have this week?
This one's short and sweet. It's from Zora, and it says, "Love the pod." Thanks, Zora.
Thanks, Zora. And in the spirit of this holiday season, and really all year long, I would like to remind us of the sacred words of probably practicing Buddhist Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn. As he said, "We can make it, baby."
Me and you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.